Podcast City Network.
Listener discretion is advised.
You're listening to The Everett Lee Show. A shot of entertainment to the head. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the entertainment.
What's happening, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome to the Everett Lee Show podcast. I am the Everett Lee. Quick shout out to everyone who follows me on Twitter. You can follow me at the Everett_Lee, Facebook.com/the Everett Lee. Click that thumbs up, and of course, Podcast City Network, the official host and sponsor of the Everett Lee Show. I have a exciting podcast today, ladies and gentlemen. I've been waiting for this. But before I get to my guest that's on the line right now, I want to give a shout out to supporters of Podcast City Network. You can follow these over on podcastcity.net.
The following support and sponsor Podcast City Network. City Limits Tap Room, sports bar in DeLand, Florida, has brew on tap, serve food, the grilled cheese is excellent. For upcoming events, check out City Limits Tap Room on Facebook.com/City Limits Tap Room. Atlantic Sounds has thousands of new and used vinyl records and CDs. If they don't have it, they can order it for you. Same location since 1982. For more updates on what's new, check out Atlantic Sounds on Facebook.com/Atlantic Sounds Vinyl. Sports Sanity Customs have worked with organizations from custom embroidering polo shirts to jerseys for your kids' baseball team. They do it all. Armed with state-of-the-art equipment and an in-house design team, they are equipped to take on your next project. Visit their website to learn more, sportsanitycustoms.com. Visit Sports Sanity Customs on Facebook.com/SportsSanityCustoms. 3Count Design offers a wide range of graphic design products, video, photography, and other forms of media. Everything from t-shirt designs to websites. Visit Facebook.com/3CountDesign for more. Demo Blast Studios, an explosion of imagination. Original artwork, podcasts, video, apparel, and more. Visit DemoBlastStudios.com. Visit Demoblast Studios on Facebook.com/Demoblast Studios, the best family entertainment pro wrestling show in the state of Kentucky. Kentucky's Own Wrestling brings quality family vintage wrestling to a town near you. Kentucky's Own Wrestling offers a ladies division in wrestling and a training school. Kentucky's Own Wrestling is the current longest running Southern promotion. Visit Facebook.com/Somerset Kentucky's Own Wrestling. All supporters and sponsors are brought to you by Podcast City Network.
The champ is here. Well, not that champ, because I'm sure my guest, and I guarantee it, she has more hardcore than the champ you guys are thinking about, and she can give him a run for his money. Ladies and gentlemen, on the line right now is none other than the War Wrestling Women's Champion, Hardcore Heather Owens. How you doing, Heather?
Good. How are you doing, man?
I'm good. Weather here in Daytona Beach is great. It's sunny. What's the weather like where you're at?
Well, I'm in northern Kentucky, so let's just say Cincinnati, and it's gross, it's raining, it's cold, It's Sunday, so I'm not going outside.
Yeah.
It looks horrible. So screw you, Florida people. I hate you all right now.
I know what the weather's like up there. I spent 5 years up in Ohio, so I know when it snows, and when the weather's bad up there, it fucking sucks.
Yeah, well, that's what It's the middle of February, so it's to be expected, I guess.
Oh yeah, it definitely is. I want to ask you, how was last weekend up in Detroit at the convention that you went at?
Oh, it was great. Actually, I went to the year prior, and they ended up getting like 9 inches of snow. So this time there was no snow. It was cold. It's Detroit in February, but no, it was super good time. It was called Astronomicon. They have it's a PopCon. They have it this is the second year, and they've already announced the date for the next year. So yeah, if anybody likes wrestling or, horror or just anything PopCon, comics, definitely check them out. It's an awesome time.
That is. I seen on your social media on Facebook or Twitter, I believe, that you picked up some things while you were up there.
Trying to think.
Some pop.
What did I get?
I think.
Oh yeah.
To add to your collection.
Well, yeah, I only I got a couple pops, but this actually yesterday there was a pop swap locally, and I ended up getting some pops and some Xena figures. So
yeah,
that's kind of my thing. Is I like to collect the things that we grew up with that a lot of people don't collect. Because I don't know too many people that are like, hey, I got to get the old school Xena figure. So that's me.
Yeah, it is. I seen that. I thought that was pretty awesome because I remember back in the day when those things came out, when Xena and Hercules was really popular. And when I seen that on your social media, I was like, hell yeah, man. I was like, she scored right there.
Yeah, that is one of the many things that I collect. Other than Pops, usually I do Xena stuff. I do horror, anything Power Rangers, like old school, first, like the real Power Rangers, season 1 through 3. Yeah, the house looks like there's a bunch of kids that live here, but nope, just 2 adults.
That is awesome. That is. And speaking of kids, where'd you grow up at?
I actually grew up in Cincinnati, Ohio. So, born and raised here. We finally ended up moving out of the state, but it's really, I could throw a rock and hit Ohio. So it's pretty much still like living in Cincinnati.
Right. And what age did you start getting into wrestling?
I actually started relatively late. I was the only child, so, and I was just a girl. So I really didn't get involved into it until I think it was in 7th grade, I believe. Yeah. So it was like 97. My dad ended up getting 20 free tickets to a Raw at Cincinnati Gardens.
Nice.
So me and like all the little boys from my class, like a couple of their uncles or whatever were the chaperones, and we all ended up going. And that was kind of like my introduction to everything wrestling. And the main thing I remember was Stone Cold came out almost every match with a steel chair and just started interfering at every match and just bringing hell. And I was like, I have no idea what's going on, but this is amazing. So that was kind of my first true wrestling interaction, and I got hooked since then.
That is awesome. Attitude Era was a great time to get into wrestling because I've talked to a lot of people here in the last few months, and when I asked them about when they started watching wrestling, a lot of them said it was right around the Attitude Era because that was such a great time because you had Stone Cold Steve Austin, the McMahon rivalry, you had The Rock, Triple H, Mick Foley, Mankind, and just so much. You had DX, The Nation, and it was just a really great time to get into wrestling, man, because like you, Stone Cold, I was waiting every week to see what else he would do to Mr. McMahon. Coming in with the beer truck, the Zamboni. It was so fucking great, man, at that time, being a wrestling fan and watching it. Now, when becoming a fan of wrestling and getting into it at that time and stuff, when did you decide that you wanted to become a wrestler, and where did you go to get trained?
Okay, well, like I said, it was like 97 when I started getting interested. I was only in like 7th grade.
Right.
But as soon as I got to high school, so, a couple years later, it was like 99, 2000, I started kind of doing some research. And this was, back before like the internet was like super, super popular. So if you wanted to find, local schools or things like that, you would get a wrestling magazine, and it would usually be on one of the last pages, and it would have a rundown of, like, wrestling schools.
Right.
So there were 2 local schools around me, and that was HWA, which was run by Les Thatcher at the time, and then you also had the NWF, which was run by Roger Ruffin. So I had actually, the first one I had contacted was Roger Ruffin, so the NWF, but they wouldn't, train until you were 18. So the only thing that they could really tell me was like, hey, definitely when you're 18, you can come back, But until then, go to the gym, take acting classes, like all this information. So I was like really discouraged, but I'm like, all right. And then HWA, they actually had a lot of little fantasy camps.
Uh-huh.
So it would be, anybody from the age of 13 to 18, if they wanted to get in the ring for a couple hours and be in there with the actual wrestlers, learn how to like fall down or, run the rope or something like that. They would have that. So I was 13, I believe, and me and my cousin ended up doing it. And that was like the moment that I was like, yeah, this is what I want to do. So, and I've always been a fat kid. So I was able through high school to, finally drop some pounds and, started going to the gym and all that good stuff.
Right.
And then as soon as I graduated high school in 2002, I ended up going to HWA, it was Les Thatcher's Pro Wrestling, Main Event Pro Wrestling Camp. And that was what the training school was called, but it was HWA, Heartland Wrestling Association.
Nice.
So, yes. So as soon as I graduated high school, I said, fuck college. I didn't want to do that. And I went to wrestling school. Now, it kind of bit me in the butt because I only went there for a few months due to some personal ex-boyfriend issues.
Oh, no.
And then I disappeared. Yeah, hey, it happens. We all go through it. So, and then I came back in 2005. So I got my feet wet for a few months in 2002, and then came back hardcore and stuck with it in 05.
Nice. Now, how'd you come up with the name, Hardcore Heather Owens? I mean, the hardcore part. I'm interested in that. How did that come about, getting your name?
Well, I was always a fan of like ECW, so I always loved like that hardcore style.
Right.
Plus, like growing up, loved like the hardcore music and just kind of like all that, like the grittiness. So that's why I went with the Hardcore Heather. But then also, I still have a tattoo of Owen Hart on my calf. So it was only, my real name's Heather, so like Hardcore Heather Owens. And a buddy actually came up with it. We just kind of pieced it all together, and it was after a practice. Like, why don't you use Hardcore Heather Owens? And we're like, bet, there it is.
Nice. I like that, man.
Yep.
I like it. It also has a good ring to it, man, and it definitely does, and it reflects who you are and your character and everything in the ring, and I love it. I love the name, and it's awesome. It definitely is.
Yeah.
It is. Now,
and the thing is, like with the whole Hardcore Heather Owens, I always say too, I'm like, well, it's H2O. So it's the whole, 2 H's and an O, and then there was like this whole, my gear for a while was like water looking, and just, I was like, you can do so much with it.
You can. That is cool. How you could actually, H2O. I never really thought about that. I like it.
Yeah.
Well, I should have put that together there, because on your Twitter handle, H2O, and I was like,
yep. If you can't find Hardcore Heather Owens, just look for H2 Owens. So same person, just abbreviated.
Nice. Nice. Now, what was it like working in HWA with Cody Hawk? How was it like working with him in the ring and just in general?
I mean, it was always a good time, because going to HWA, I was, when I started training, the main guys that were there, you would have, your Cody, your Matt Stryker, your Nigel McGuinness, Chad Coyer. Like, there's so many amazing people that was, there at that time. And it was also a WWE developmental. So that was before, your NXTs and things like that. They would have the developmentals. So you had HWA was one, OVW was one, and there was maybe like a couple other. So a lot of times you would have the WCW guys, WWF guys come in. There was always so many people, coming in and out. And it was just, every week it was something new. So I was learning from so many amazing people. But yeah, when I was like training, I got to train with people like John Moxley. And
Nice.
there's so many amazing people that I've been able to get in the ring with and learn from.
That's cool. That is it. And yeah, a lot of people don't remember that HWA and like OVW was the NXT before there was an NXT, because I remember going back on the WWE Network and looking at like people like from the Ruthless Aggression area, like Cena, Orton, Lesnar, and
Batista.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
They came from OVW, and I loved how you get to see who they were before they became who they are now. And
and a lot of them had a long road, because it's like your John Cena, he was prototype, and it was just like the transformation of these people. And Batista was Leviathan. And it's really crazy to see the evolution of people. Brock Lesnar's always kind of been that Brock Lesnar, though.
Yeah.
That big badass.
Yeah, he is. He's a badass. He is. One of my favorite. I have to say, one of my favorite matches was the WrestleMania match with him and Kurt Angle, where they basically broke their fucking necks going off the freaking moonsaults. God, it's like, what the hell? But they put it all out there on the line, and I mean, you mentioned John Cena prototype. I seen back in 2002 at a house show in Knoxville, Tennessee. I took my younger brother to go see. It was the Raw house show. The main event was Stone Cold Steve Austin against Ric Flair, steel cage match, which was just great, fantastic. And like Lesnar was there, Bradshaw, Big Show, just a lot of big names that were there at that time. And one match I noticed they had, I forget who was in the ring, but there was a guy in the ring and he was getting booed at, and he was doing everything to, put on a good match. And my brother's looking at this guy and he's like, this guy sucks. And I just happened to say, I'm like, man, I was like, shut up. Because I was like, you don't know, this guy right here in the next 3 years, he could become like a big star. And that was John Cena, the prototype.
Yeah, that's funny. Well, because, I remember seeing the prototype. I was like, look at his hair. What the hell is this? Yeah, no, I was not a fan of prototype. And actually, like, because you're either a fan of, like, of wrestling entertainment, but then there was the wrestlers, So it's like, I love Dean Malenko. Like, Dean Malenko, like I could watch him wrestle for forever, like, just amazing. But then you would have your wrestling entertainer, which was your John Cena, So I didn't really become a John Cena fan until like the last 5 years, just because of he's entertaining. I mean, he only does like 3 or 4 moves, but that's all he has to. He knows what he needs to do to get over. It's just like the Ultimate Warrior. So I can't hate.
You can't.
I can't hate at all. Less stress on the body.
Yeah, you can't really hate, because I think that John Cena in his later career in the last few years, his best matches to me I've seen him have was against Kevin Owens and AJ Styles. They brought the best out of him. I mean, especially Kevin Owens with their feud they had there when Owens got called up to the main roster from NXT. That was great. Those are some great matches. Cena was pulling stuff out that you normally wouldn't see him do. He kind of went out of his comfort zone there a little bit, and he got good responses to it, and he put on some really good matches, especially with AJ Styles. Just phenomenal, no pun intended.
Oh, yeah. But yeah, no, it definitely, when you're someone like John Cena, and each week you have to work, essentially the same type of people, because WWE, they had their primary entertainers, but then they started recruiting all these indie workers who have been all over the country, and it's a different style. And when you can, John Cena is a professional enough that he can kind of work with, everybody. It's just he never really got that opportunity.
Right. He never really did. And it just killed me sometimes because when he went up against Rusev and fans were saying, oh, he's burying this guy. And then, of course, Bray Wyatt, oh, he's burying him and stuff. It's like they had some good feuds, good stories, and it was really entertaining. What he did and what a person like Rusev and Bray Wyatt would do. And they made Cena look good, and he made them look good, vice versa. And just because, like at WrestleMania 31, he gets the U.S. title from Rusev, and then he beats, Bray Wyatt at WrestleMania 30. I'm like, come on, man. Come on. It's entertainment, and it's great.
Yeah, and that's the thing. That's why, you get, as a wrestler, when you watch wrestling, you're like, okay, that's awesome. Like, that made sense. Like, you just pissed off so many people, but they're telling a story and they're doing it well. But then you have, the wrestling fans that are just like, they don't understand, which is great. That's why wrestling, how WWE has kind of gone on for so long, because the fans are so passionate into it. They either love or hate you, like, for real. But as a wrestler, you're looking at it, you're like, that's fucking brilliant.
Yeah,
like, they know what they're doing.
Yeah, they are. Especially what they're doing right now with Becky Lynch, the man. I love that gimmick.
Oh,
and
yeah.
I was reading about Stone Cold. He shared his thoughts on Becky Lynch right now with the gimmick. He says it's money, and he says he admires and don't mind the comparison of her being this era or generations, however you look at it, Stone Cold, because it's great, and he likes it, and I love how she's turned it up a notch, being the man, that gimmick, and it's just great. It's because it's like Ric Flair.
Oh yeah, dude, I love it.
I do, and it's awesome for me to follow her. I've been following Becky since 2014, 2013. I seen her at NXT live event here in Daytona Beach. It was before she got put on NXT TV, and I met her a couple times at a meet and greet right before the event, and it was great. I let her know how awesome it was to meet her and seeing her in the ring, and she was really humble about it, me saying that. And look at her where she's at now. It's like, wow. It's like she's on top, man. She is on top. She's on fire.
Oh yeah.
She
was given an opportunity, and she ran with it. She knew what she had to do.
Yeah.
Love it.
Yeah, I love it, and I can't wait to see what's going to happen next. I can't wait to see what's going to happen next with her and what she does, because she's so far had some really good, amazing matches.
Totally, yeah.
Totally. Yeah, definitely. Now, talking about amazing matches, tell me about matches you've had against amazing Maria James. Tell me about those.
Oh my God! Well, I've been wrestling Maria for many years. The first time I wrestled her was probably 6 or 7 years ago in Georgetown, Kentucky. We both definitely grew in our careers. Honestly, I can't, every time that I've been able to get in the mat, a ring with Maria, I know it was going to be so much fun. We were going to beat the shit out of each other. But, honestly, I think we've wrestled each other, oh my God, it had to been 15, 20 times. And I think there's only one time that she ever beat me. That's kind of our ongoing joke. She's like, doesn't matter what city I'm in, what state. It's like, I can't beat Heather. But yeah, dude, it's just, we get creative, because we're both, we're like them old, classy, veteran, just bitches. We're like, what can we do? And yeah, no, I love working with her. We make it entertaining,
Right.
We put ourselves in the crowd, We're like, what if we were going to a wrestling show? What would we want to see? What would entertain us? You know, there's just so many times. It's gotten a lot better with girl wrestling, because now it's not just girl wrestling; it's wrestling.
Yeah.
But it's like growing up. You have these girls, and then you would watch the same little spots, and you're like, I don't care. I'm not entertained.
Mm-hmm.
So we try to do the dude stuff, and I think that's what a lot of what the girl wrestling is now. It's everybody can do the same shit.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally agree. I definitely agree. When I was looking up, back last month, I had Shawna Reed on, and when I was looking up matches and footage of her, I seen a lot of you and Shawna Reed going, like, there's a lot of it on YouTube there. You and Shawna Reed, and that's right there. Shawna Reed, she's a fantastic talent. She's done stuff with WWE, and I even told her, trying to remember here, I even told her when she was on the podcast, I mentioned, love to see you in a ring, in a match and stuff, but she's done a lot with the company and stuff. Now, right before your last match you had on February 2nd, you had one more match with Shawna Reed. And
yes,
what was that like? And just in general, how was it over the years just wrestling her and just,
So it's funny because, for a while I knew my last match was going to be on February 2nd.
Mm-hmm.
So I kind of told promoters, I'm like, look, I know you guys don't believe me because, there's no retirement in wrestling. So, we could be having a different conversation in a year or two. But as of now, like February 2nd, that's my retirement. So if you want to book me, you can do it prior to that,
right.
So nobody really did. But so, knowing Cody, and, Cody's one of our best friends, me and my husband, he was the best man at our wedding. So anytime that he has any kind of promotion, anything going, we're like, bet, let us know. We'll be a part of it. Right. So he ended up having their very first FGW show on February 1st. And like a week or two prior, I get a text message from Shawna. It's just like, Heather, I know you don't want to wrestle anymore, and I know your retirement is on the 2nd, but will you please wrestle me on the 1st? And I was like, fine. I was like, fine. But no, because I love her to death. I've known her since she started, getting into wrestling. And I think what made us, closer is she was like one of Cody's only girl students within the last few years.
Right.
And I'm one of his really old school, like, trainees that, actually still perform.
Mm-hmm.
So it was like having his oldest female student versus his newest. And so, yeah, I'm the one that kind of took her under my wing because I'm like, dude, she has it. And I just wanted to, as a girl in the business, there's a lot that you can't learn from the guys.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why I kind of took her under my wing. I would take her to a few different shows, just being in the car with her and kind of teaching her, it's different being a female. You have to watch yourself. You have to, just be very cautious because there are some very, very scandalous people out there, especially in wrestling.
Right.
So I was just, trying to help out the next generation, and she was very, very willing to learn, very respectful. I consider her one of my really, really, like, super close friends. So, like, there's definitely an age difference, but when it comes to wrestling, like, I have so many friends that range in so many, we're all the same.
Right.
So, yeah, like, so I love getting in the ring with her, but it's like she wants, because she's still young and she's, like, oh, let's try this. Let's do this. And I'm like, all right. I was like, whatever you want to do, I'll take, but I'm very old school. So you're not going to see me doing some crazy combos and shit like that. You're going to get a body slam, a suplex, real basic shit out of me. But I know how to entertain the crowd. That's what I do.
Yeah, you
so
definitely...
having both that, yeah, like, so us together, we really feed off each other well.
You do. You do. When I was looking at footage of Shawna Reed, when I was having her on there, I was watching, I'd stop and watch the matches with you and her, and it was great. I'm trying to remember off the top of my head, the one match where it was in 2017, and the way towards the finish of the match, where you had interference and you rolled her up in schoolboy, and it was like 1, 2, 3, and you got the hell out of there, and Shawna's just throwing a fit. That was great. I think it was Cody. Cody interfered, and you came off the ropes, or she came off the ropes, and you rolled her up in a small package, 1, 2, 3, and I thought it was so great. And I was just, when I had her on, I mentioned about wrestling you, and she was disappointed at that time that she wasn't going to get to wrestle you, because she was, but then something happened, and that that didn't go through. And then finally, when I got on Facebook and Twitter, I seen that you guys were wrestling right before your last match on the second. I'm like, hell yeah, I'd love to see this.
Yep.
And
yeah,
like I was telling you before we went live, I said I found the match last night and I watched it, and it was a really good match, and the crowd was into it. And the one thing was the finish, the two false finishes. I was like, oh damn! It's like I didn't know who was gonna get the pinfall, and when she did, man, that was so great. And I could tell there was so much emotion going into that at the end of the match right there with you and Shawna, and just it was awesome. It definitely was.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know if it was recorded or not, or, whatever the match that you saw, but at the very, very end, so we, she got the pin, and then, because the few times that we have wrestled, I've always beat her. So it was kind of like that moment of passing the torch. You're the one that's going to go on. Your passion is still so strong. I tell people, I was like, you're going to see her, she's going to get a job in NXT. She's going to go. You just don't know when.
Right.
So, but no, at the very, very end, though, it was very emotional. So she's the one that she comes over to me and hugs me, and she's crying. I was like, damn it, Shawna. I was like, you're not supposed to make me cry. And when we have a moment, and then, so Cody came out, kind of, they brought flowers and all this douchey shit to me. So it was it was really nice. It really was. It was definitely emotional that day, and then the next, the actual retirement was pretty emotional.
Yeah, that was on the video there at the end of it right there with you and the mic and Shawna and Cody coming out.
Oh, okay.
That was at the end of it right there, and then when you got on the mic there and you said some words there, and it was really good. It was really good way to close up that right there, and it was a good match. I really did enjoy that.
Well, thank you.
You're welcome. And speaking of motion, your last match, February 2nd, what was on your mind and your emotions before you wrestled your last match, and what was your mindset and your emotions after it was all done and said with your last match? Tell me about that.
Well, I'll be honest, like going into it, my body, mentally, physically, I was ready to retire. So I didn't know how I was going to feel. I didn't know if I was going to be emotional, or I just kind of want to be done with it. And honestly, it was just a normal wrestling show. It's the big war anniversary, show they do every year. But one of the big things was me and Paloma Star, we've had this feud building up for probably over a year, and they ended up making us the main event. So that was one huge thing. It was the first ever women's cage match, first ever women's Fans Bring the Weapons match. So there's so many things on top of that. And so, I was just going through the steps like it was a normal wrestling match. But as soon as when I was waiting to go out. They hit Paloma's music. She went out first. And that was kind of the moment that I realized, I'm like, this is it. Like, this is the match. So that's when I started getting those feelings. And then we went out and we had a blast. We beat the shit out of each other, but we had fun with it. So it was very bloody. It was, so fans are ridiculous. When you tell fans to bring weapons, my God. So at least we were able to pick through, because there were certain things I was like, bro, we're not using this shit. What the hell's wrong with them? So, but there were some really cool things. Somebody brought a banana.
Yeah, I seen that.
I was like, oh, Paloma, we got to use this. So, of course, we're both, children. We're like, oh, that's fucking great. Oh, we got to use the banana. So, yeah, and I love her to death. I met her years ago up in a promotion called Resistance Pro up in the Chicago area. Mm-hmm. And, yeah, I mean, everybody, they legit hate her and, crazy, death threats. I'm like, oh, my God, this is crazy. But, when you can find people like that, we work so well with each other. So I was very excited to be able to work with her in the last match. And then, I mean, I ended up winning the match, and I ended up beating her, getting the belt back that I had worked for, so that I retired as the women's champion. That was a huge, thing to me of after all these years, because War was not very high up on the women's wrestling. Mm-hmm. So that was my big thing of kind of breaking down those walls and showing the promoter, Big Tom. I was like, I want to show him that we're just like everybody else. We're just entertainers. We can be just as good. And that's what I showed him. And he even said, after all these years, he's like, I just look at you guys as wrestlers, and you're just part of the roster. And so it was very emotional. My mom, she was there also. She had front row. So there, one of my favorite pictures is it's me covered in blood with flowers that Big Tom and Christine came out and gave me, and then I'm there hugging my mom.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean, she was at my very first wrestling match. She's been to hundreds in between, and then she was at my very last match. So that was a big deal.
Yeah. I got a slideshow, pictures of your last match up here for viewers to see, and I added I added that picture right there at the end of it with you and your mother right there. And I'd say she was very proud of you, and just seeing the journey that you went on in your 13-year career, if that's right, 13 years.
Yeah,
because,
yeah,
on the
13.
videos.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. And just seeing you just doing what you do and entertaining and having some kick-ass matches. And I was there, being a parent, was there times where she'd watch your match and then you'd be in the ring and you do something or some spots, and then you look over and then she's like, oh my God, it's like, what the hell?
Well, the funny thing is, because, she would bring, her friends or other people, they would be the ones that are getting like, oh my God, oh, is Heather okay? My mom would be fine. She's like, no, Heather's fine. Heather knows what she's doing. Blah, blah, blah. My mom was always very, shit didn't faze her. Right. But I know when I first started, I was a heel in this promotion down in the Cincinnati area, and she would get so upset because the people that would sit behind her would call me dirty, nasty names. But I'm like, Mom, that just means I'm doing my job. I was like, she's like, I know, but I wanted to turn around and smack the shit out of them. I was like, then I'm awesome. But no, she understood because, growing up, when I did start watching wrestling, every Monday we'd have the VCR set. We'd have to record Raw. It was just me and my mom in the living room watching Raw. I couldn't do anything. I signed up for volleyball because I played all them random sports in grade school and high school.
Right.
But they moved practices to Monday nights at like 9. And I'm like, Mom, I don't think I can play volleyball anymore because Raw's on. And legit, I did not play volleyball that year because I would rather stay home and watch Raw.
Wow.
So
That
it shows what priorities were.
Yeah, that's awesome. That is. Just speaking of recording Raw, it reminded me of back during 97, 98, 99 when we would watch, me and my cousin, Monday night. If I wasn't working, I had a Monday. We'd sit there and watch like the first hour of WCW, and then flip it over and watch the last 2 hours of Monday Night Raw, and then later that night, if we weren't tired, or the next day, we would go back and watch the last 2 hours of WCW Nitro. And thank God for VCRs back in the day. Thank God for that.
Yeah.
You ever had a tape that you've recorded over so much that you forget that you don't have that much left, and it's recording an episode of Raw and then it cuts right off and you're like, no, fuck.
Well, the thing is, I actually still have a couple boxes of old VHSs, and most of them are very organized. They're all labeled of like Raw, whatever it was, and then I would label whatever the main thing was. So it was like, This Is Your Life, Mick Foley, or, like crazy shit like this. So I have that all on VHS in a box in the basement. So
that's awesome. That is. That is. One thing that is awesome is you're going to be inducted in the 2020 War Wrestling Hall of Fame. How's that feel, being inducted into the Hall of Fame?
I was, first of all, very, very, very surprised. So Big Tom kind of threw that at me as I was, at the very, very end. I retired. I'm crying. I have my flowers. I'm bloody. It's ridiculous. So he kind of threw it at me that I would be the very first, inductee in the 2020 War Hall of Fame. And, like, that is my entire career. Like, that is the coolest, most, like, epitome for anything wrestling for me. Because, I've been an extra in WWE. Mm-hmm. Like, I was a Rosebud and, things like that. Totally awesome, but people aren't going to remember me from that. I'm not going to, it's like, it was just it was a paycheck. Mm-hmm. I've wrestled for the Gathering of the Juggalos. Like, growing up, I was a huge Juggalo. So for me to work for them, I was like, oh, hey, now they're paying me. Like, awesome. So there were so many little things, but this was like, for me to be the very first female going to be inducted, like, it proved so much that that was my imprint on wrestling, is that anybody, if you have the heart, the passion, the drive, anybody can, do that. And it's funny because I have a bucket list, and one of the things on my bucket list is to be a motivational speaker. But it's like, looking back, and I'm like, being in wrestling all these years, I feel like, having so many people like, Heather, watch my match. What do you think? Having these fans come up to me like, oh, my granddaughter loves you. She wants to be a wrestler because of you. And it's like all these little things that I kind of look at myself in the mirror and I'm just like, who the fuck am I? Like, I'm nobody special, but in reality, I really am. Like, I'm changing, people's lives. So, I am still super stoked, and I can't even believe it that he wants me to be a part of the Hall of Fame. So, I'm kind of at a loss of words still for going to be in it.
Right.
So very honored, very super honored.
That's cool. That is. And like you said, like, motivational speaker, you cut promos at events, at matches, anywhere you went during your career, you'd be out there and you'd cut a promo. And one thing I'm going to ask you is, who do you think in the business in wrestling can cut the best promo, and who's your favorite?
Well,
so many.
Yeah, there's so many because, so many people, they have different styles and things like that. I mean, Kevin Owens, awesome, but I'm a Ric Flair girl. Ric Flair to me is one of the best of all time, will always be the best. Dusty Rhodes, I'm very old school, so all them old school promos, but you kind of have to have it. Like Dean Malenko is an amazing professional wrestler, not so much good on a microphone. So
he's not. He's the man of 1,000 holds. But then of course you got Chris Jericho, who's the man of 1,001 holds.
There you go.
Yeah, Malenko was great. I have a friend that was trained by his, I believe his brother or his, by his brother, Boris Malenko. He got trained by him, and he's great. He's just you can tell just the style, the way he moves, and he moves pretty good for a big guy. I mean, just in the ring, and then and then him being trained by Boris, it's like what? He's like, trained by Boris Malenko. He was telling me back, like you talked about earlier, about looking for wrestling schools. He said that back in the day when he was wanting to become a wrestler, you had to go out and you had to find these schools. It's like now, now you just get online there and type in Google wrestling schools, and a bunch, pop up.
Well, and the thing is too, getting into it, you actually had to go to a wrestling school,
right?
But then for a long time, it's like, oh well, I can buy a wrestling ring, I can do this. Like, the backyard wrestling's always kind of been around. I've known a lot of friends to do that, but it was more of like, shits and giggles, not a huge deal. But then you have so many people that kind of, just kind of like, I bought a wrestling ring, I'm going to teach myself to fall down. And now they're wrestling in super shitty promotions, but they think they're a pro wrestler. Like, you're not. I don't want to get in the ring with you because you're going to fucking hurt me.
Right.
So,
right.
Yeah, back in the day, though, you had to go to a wrestling school. You trained, and you weren't going to get into a wrestling ring in front of a crowd until your trainer was like, you're ready, like, this is it. And usually by that time, you're like, no, I'm not. I don't want to, I'm not ready to be in front of a crowd.
Right, definitely. You're not the only person I've heard say that before. Like, my friend there, he mentioned that too, about like backyard wrestling. He would feel more safer in the ring with someone who was trained and putting his trust in his body in their hands than someone that was in a backyard wrestling, in a backyard wrestling ring. And I totally agree. Yeah, definitely, because
and that's the thing. I mean, we're working together. You go out there, you're not trying to beat the shit out of each other. You're not trying to hurt each other. You're trying to entertain. Exactly. The fans. It's a big production. You don't, it's like people don't get that. Like, oh yeah, they're super stiff, and well, being stiff and being dangerous, two different things. Mm-hmm. There's many times that I'll work somebody, especially a guy, and I have to hit them a little bit harder for the crowd to believe it. Mm-hmm. But they ain't hurt. So yeah, it's a dance. It truly, truly is. You have to work with each other.
Yeah, it definitely is. Because I've seen botches, and I've seen videos of like wrestlers at promotions and stuff, video and footage on like YouTube or little clips.
Yeah, because they're doing stupid shit that they have no right or reason to be doing it. Mm-hmm. So I stopped watching all the Botchamanias for a while because it just pisses me off.
Yeah,
because I'm like, these fucking idiots.
It is, but what do you think about like when like in NXT and WWE when someone botches and then you got the crowd saying, you fucked up. Those
I mean, the thing is though, look, we've all had those moments of like, usually the dumbest shit. It's like trying to get into the ring and you fall, or a move that you've done 100 times, like a damn hip toss, and just something happened. So it's like, it happens. I mean, the only 2 times that I can remember that I got a concussion is like the one time I was doing a cat fight, which cat fight and wrestling, like fuck that. But ended up doing a cat fight, rolling out on the outside, and I hit my head on the concrete. And like, yep, that was my own damn fault. But, like spraining an ankle, trying to get into the ring, and you just get in wrong.
Yeah.
Like shit like that, yeah. But if you're trying to do a 450 to the outside, to a table, just get the fuck out of here. Ridiculous.
You're like, you ain't gonna see my ass up on the turnbuckle going outside.
That's what I'm saying. Like, no, I can get the crowd to yay or boo me by not doing that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, your match is just, it's entertaining, and you go in there and you do enough and you get the crowd worked up and you just go. One thing I'd have to say is during your last match with Shawna Reed, when you were chopping each other in the chest, when it was your turn, man, the crowd got right behind you. You got the crowd up, man. They got fired up, man. And I was sitting there laughing when Shawna did that first chop and got you in turnbuckle, and then when she licked her hand, I'm like, oh no, here it comes. And then all of a sudden you countered, got her in there. The crowd just was like, yeah, they were behind you, man. It was great. And I love wrestling that's like that, because you see the one person carrying the momentum and in the match, and then you're like, oh man, it's like, and all of a sudden, boom, the comeback. I love the comeback spots because the crowd's like gets into it, starts clapping, and they're cheering for you, and then the crowd goes with you, man. They follow you all the way with the comeback.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, and after doing it for so many years, you realize what works. Mm-hmm. So you know what the crowd is. They get to the point they expect to see it. Yeah. So you got to give it to them.
Yeah, you definitely do. You definitely have to give it to them. Now, 2019, it's pretty much we're 2 months in 2019. It feels like it's halfway over. What can we expect now for the rest of 2019 from Hardcore Heather Owens? What's in store for you for the rest of 2019?
Well, I'll tell you what, I'm actually super excited to have weekends of not having to travel to the middle of nowhere for a show. So, I'm ready to kind of, I tell people, I was like, I want to be a normal person, which will never happen. But, I want to kind of just have those weekends, those free weekends to go like, hey, we're going to go to this town and we're going to go to a toy store or, fun shit like that. I am going to do more podcasting, more live streaming. Me and my best friend, we do a podcast called Best Friend Show Podcast.
Yes.
We usually do that about every 2 weeks. We've kind of been off because of the holidays and, all that shit. But, we talk about everything from music to wrestling to, we sample ridiculous things. We do Oreo tasting. The next episode, we have a box of Sour Patch Kid cereal we're going to try. So it's just, we bullshit. We have a good time. So, we just, after all these years, we're like, you know what? Let's hang out. Let's have a reason to hang out. Mm-hmm. So that's what we do. Me and the husband, we, right now, it's just an Instagram page, but it's pop_drunk_. And it shows our pop collection because, yeah, we collect a lot of pop vinyls, damn Funko. And so we're going to start doing YouTube videos and things like that on our trips of like, hey, here's a mystery box. And just, I can't get away from the entertainment. I love entertaining people. Mm-hmm. I love being in front of a crowd, a camera. So I just want to do that. Just do some more entertaining, but kind of like on my dime.
Right.
On my time.
On your time. That's awesome. Yeah, I checked out episodes of the Best Friends podcast, and I love it. Yeah. I love it because you and Jade.
Well, thank you.
you guys got some great chemistry, and I love the conversations that you have and the stuff you talk about. I thought it was funny when I was referred to your podcast by Robin Nilsson. He said, you got to check out Heather Owens doing her own podcast. I'm like, oh, really? So I checked it out. And one of the episodes I was watching was where you guys relate doing your live stream on Facebook because of traffic and taking a ferry. And I was laughing about that. And just the chemistry, how you and Jade played off each other was just fantastic. And just watching the episodes I've watched with you and her, and it's an awesome podcast because you do talk about just about everything and anything, and you have people chiming in on your live podcast there on Facebook Live, and then you give people the ability to text you questions and just that interaction with the audience, and it's fantastic. And anyone who's not checked it out, you should check it out because I'm definitely looking forward to see you guys trying some Sour Patch cereal.
Oh yeah, I'm sure it's going to be absolutely horrible. But anytime we see anything, we're like, oh my God, we got to fucking do it. So yeah, and if you're a female, if you're a male, we don't care. Like, we cater to everybody. We're two classy broads that are best friends that just want to talk about life. So yeah, we can talk about anything. If people come across topics and they're like, hey, what about this? You guys should talk about this. Like the one episode we talked about how people are getting sex dolls, but they have their significant others like faces and shit on them. Like, that was a huge episode. What the hell? Like,
yeah.
It's a good time. Plus, we get together, we have a couple drinks. Everything's better with alcohol. So.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
It definitely is. I'm looking forward to seeing the YouTube videos with you and your husband. Your husband, he was a former wrestler, Ed Gonzalez.
Yes, and that's actually how that's how we met many moons ago. 2005, we had met in Piqua, Ohio, and I was just a referee at the time, but. Yeah, we kind of met, and things went pretty fast after that. Got married in 2007, and here we are, 2019. So, yeah. So now we just have huge toy collections and no children, just 3 cats and a rabbit. So life's pretty good for us.
That is awesome. That is. For me, my life, my wife, she looks at me like I'm a big kid myself, because with the stuff that I have with the wrestling figures and just different toys and stuff, and behind me, you people can see I got like this big Thor hammer behind me. I have a 1-year-old daughter. She turns 2 at the end of the month, and she'll run over there and she'll grab it and run around the house, dog chasing behind her, barking, and she's a trip, man. She is. I love her to death. And she'll sit down and watch wrestling, and she's got to the point where, like, she don't really care too much about the men, but when she sees the women, she perks up, and she'll sit there on my lap and watch. And when they're hitting moves and stuff, she goes, oh, ow. It's just, she watches it, man. And then when someone win at the end, the bell rings and crowd's cheering, she'll jump up and she'll go, yay, and start clapping her hands. I mean, she loves it. She loves it.
That's awesome.
It is.
Yeah, and that's the thing. Yeah, I mean, you kind of feel better when your kids are watching females nowadays in the ring versus your sables.
Oh yeah, so, I remember that. Because, yeah. I mean,
yeah, no, but that's it. Yeah, no, growing up, when I did start watching wrestling, I'm like, yeah, them fucking guys. Hey, China was a big inspiration for me. Moolah and all them. Not so much the Sables. So.
Yeah, exactly. Now, tonight's the Elimination Chamber pay-per-view, and it looks like it's a pretty good card. What match you look forward to?
Honestly, I really I'm excited to see the Ronda Rousey and Ruby Riott match. I've known Ruby off and on for years. She was in the Indies. I've only been lucky enough to work her once, and it was such a good time. She's so amazing, so talented.
Right.
Better than better than 90% of the guys I've ever seen perform. So I think that's going to be a hell of a match. Anytime that Sarah Logan, because I want to call her Crazy Mary every time. She's amazing. She's so talented.
She is.
So, just a lot of those people that I kind of, know, came up with. I'm very entertained by them. So, but definitely the Ronda Rousey matchup. I'm
looking forward to see that. I'm looking to see what Ruby Riott does, because Ruby she's a great talent in the ring, and I've enjoyed her matches, and I wish that I feel in some ways that they kind of holding her back a little bit, but tonight I'm hoping they kind of let her loose a little bit and seeing what she does, and I know it's going to be great because the matches Ronda's had so far in almost the last year since she's been with the WWE, her matches have been great, man. They've gotten better and better.
She's gotten a lot better. Exactly, yeah, and it's who she's in the ring with, So I mean, these girls are going to push her.
Yeah,
and it's going to be great.
Yeah, and especially her promos, because I believe Paul Heyman, he's working behind the scenes on Raw, and apparently I guess to assume from what the rumor mills have been saying is that he's been working with her promos, and that's a great talent right there who cuts really good promos for his client Brock Lesnar.
Yeah. Oh, Paul Heyman, yeah. Absolutely. Actually, when you were talking about, who has the best promo, yeah, definitely Paul Heyman. Love me some Paul Heyman.
Yeah, I definitely do. I want to thank you for coming on today and talking with me, talking about your career, your 13-year career, everything you went through from your beginning to your last match, and everything in between with your podcast and the upcoming YouTube series with your husband. I'm looking forward to that. I'm looking forward to a lot of things with you this year, and I want to thank you for coming on today.
Yeah, no, definitely. I appreciate you having me on here. It was definitely a very, usually, honestly, when I do these things, I'm like, oh, how long is it, But yeah, I just looked at the clock. I'm like, damn, it's been an hour. But no, it was a very good conversation. I appreciate you, asking me questions. And hopefully everybody that listened, can kind of see a little bit of my life in wrestling and what the future has. So I appreciate it.
You can check out the Everett Lee Show at the following right there on the screen. You can check out the Everett Lee Show podcast on Stitcher Radio. Download that app for your smartphone and tablet. And also on Libsyn.com. The Everett Lee Show is on Libsyn.com. And on iTunes. Everett Lee Show is on iTunes. And on YouTube. The audio portion of this podcast will be available on the YouTube channel of the Everett Lee Show. And you can check out more of the Everett Lee Show over on podcastcity.net. Head over to podcastcity.net for the Everett Lee Show and many, many more content and shows featured on the network. You can follow Podcast City Network over on Facebook, Podcast City Network, and on Twitter at Podcast City Net. Everett Lee signing off. Everyone have a good day and a good weekend, and I'll see you again next week on another episode of the Everett Lee Show. Peace.